Hi, this is Blaine Cluten for Cluten Law. One of the key questions that I get asked very frequently is about the different stages of a trial. And there's two basic types of trials, which I've talked about in other videos, but for your purposes, there's criminal trials and civil trials. And one of the best explanations that I've seen comes from the jury instructions for criminal trials. And so here's the breakdown of the stages of a trial in a criminal context. So what they say is that there are 8 stages to most trials, and here's a brief explanation of each stage. So number 1 is jury selection, and jury selection is also referred to as voir dire, and that is where each side, the defense and the prosecution, has an opportunity to ask the jury questions in order to select which members of the jury are going to represent the people. And they are the finders of fact for the criminal trial. Number 2 is explanation of general rules. And the explanation of general rules is a longer process that the judge will go through and explain all of the precautionary and introduction rules, and then the general stages of the trial, kind of like what we're doing now. And then after the case is concluded, the judge will give closing instructions. Number 3 is opening statements, and this is where the attorneys summarize what they expect the evidence to be. Number 4 is presentation of evidence, and this is when witnesses and exhibits are presented. Number 5 is closing arguments, and this is when the attorneys have an opportunity to persuade you how to decide the case. And closing arguments obviously come at the end of the case. And then, as I mentioned earlier, number 6 is jury instructions. This is when the judge explains the law that applies to the particular charges in the case. This includes explaining what the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt for a guilty verdict. You will also generally receive a copy of the printed instructions. And then number 7 is deliberations. This is when the jury goes back into the jury room and decides whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty of a particular charge or charges. And number 8 is return of verdict. And this is where the jury will tell the court what the verdict is. So these are the basic outline of what the stages of a trial are. Obviously, each one of those goes into quite a bit of depth within the trial itself, but this has been a broad overview summary just for your explanation. This is Blaine Cluten for Cluten Law. Thank you.